Seedy Side of Darkness Part 2. You knew there had to be a Dark 2. I have fake memories of going to Long Beach where my parents had friends who lived there, in their summer houses, beach houses. I was maybe 5. I remember New Pike on the pier with all the rides, the big wooden roller coaster that there were always stories about people who had died on that thing. And, it wasn't until I was in my mid-20s that I finally went on that roller coaster. I think it was no big deal because I'd already been on the roller coaster at Knott's Berry Farm and Magic Mountain, Matterhorn, and Disneyland. So, couldn't kill me, right? But, when you're a kid, you have those fears so naturally. My dad and brother would go on these things, and I just said, no, not going to happen. People my parents knew, they drank, they gambled, and there was always a poker party going on and a lot of drinking going on. My dad loved to play cards and roll the dice. He must have got it from the Army because he had a system for winning, and it seemed that everyone on my dad's side liked to gamble and hit the bars. My father was a house painter for a while, then got into the billboard painting business. His stepfather, Bab Nybert, had taught him as a young boy how to paint. He figured the kid had to, have some kind of, way of making a living. I was about 7 years old when Bab died. I have very faint memories of him, but he did look a bit like Jackie Gleason. He died in a head-on collision on Christmas Eve, 1957. I remember they found the Christmas presents in the back of his Nash Rambler. After Bab died, Grandma Nybert would never be the same. She'd marry about 5 more times. First husband, Alex Schofield, died in 1940. He was a very abusive individual, from what my father tells me and other people. And my Grandma Nybert, her husband, they lived in the seedy part of Glendale near the LA River. I used to play there. My parents didn't know it. From 1957 to 1968, my dad's brothers Ted and George would live with us when they would get out of jail for drugs, and my mother made sure us kids knew this. Ted would die on a non-herb farm in 1969, and George would die in a homeless shelter some 10 years later. We would, from 70 on, our phone number would be unlisted, so certain relatives could not reach us and borrow money or live with us. My dad's sister and her 6 kids lived with us for a couple of months in the 60s, and she was married 6 times and had a child by each father. First husband was my Uncle D, who was Bab's brother. I guess that's the way they did it in the South. After 1970, I lost track of all my cousins and my aunt. Ted had a child that was given up for adoption. It lived only 5 miles away from me in Lockton County. The parents were doctors, from what I understand. But we didn't know who the people were who adopted, Ted's daughter. George had a son, Ricky, and a daughter, Susie, last name Schofield, same as mine, but the mother, Carol, divorced and took the kids to New York, and we've never seen them again. Grandma Nybert would die on Christmas Eve, 1970. After that, we never saw Dad's side again. What we kids learned from this was we never wanted to live like that, like these people. Always seemed to live on the edge. I would use a lot of these memories in my songs or the stories I would write. A lot of the people in music lived the same way as my uncles and aunts, and I always hoped that they all found happiness beyond the veil.